Hi, this is Sara Allen. I'm a tech specialist with CHS Agronomy. And today we're here in Southern Illinois looking at a research trial conducted by Dr. Carla Gage with Southern Illinois University. Specifically, we're looking in this trial at tank mixes with the Enlist platform. And what we're looking for in this trial is Liberty plus Enlist 1 in a tank mix with different water conditioners and adjuvants, drift reduction agents, and deposition aids. So let's set up the trial a little bit. First of all, you notice some really large weeds. So we're at 13 days after application, so these weeds may not have been this big whenever it was applied, but they were still pretty good size. We've got some large giant ragweed, we've got water hemp, prickly sida or tea weed, and we've also got a smattering of mare's tail out in this trial. So when you're looking at adjuvant research, a couple things to point out for you is that we use half rate of herbicides. So in this case, we used a pint of Liberty tank mixed with a pint of Enlist 1. That's important to note because we're not looking for total control from the herbicide in order to tease out those differences between adjuvants and between the treatments. So what you might see is not indicative of what's going to be out in the field. It's going to be just a research trial. Then as we think about Enlist 1, tank mixed with Liberty. So let's tear that apart a little bit. Liberty, it's a group 10 herbicide. Its mode of action is a nitrogen metabolism inhibitor. It's a contact herbicide. The more coverage you have in the plant, the better. And then we look at Enlist 1. It's a plant growth regulator, auxin herbicide. And when you look at the label for it, is restricted to coarse to very coarse nozzles. It's a systemic herbicide, so once you get a drop on the plant, you should be good at getting a kill from it. So when you tank mix them together, it's a very good resistance management strategy because you have two absolutely different modes of action. But when you tank mix them together, you're looking for coverage, and you're restricted by what the coarse and very coarse nozzles you can use with Enlist 1. So as you can see, the adjuvants that you might add into that tank mix are extremely important in order to walk that fine line and get your best efficacy from Liberty, a contact herbicide, but also comply and keep Enlist 1 under the restrictions and limit the amount of off-target movement. We're going to be looking at some of the treatments here then, one by one. So the first treatment we're going to look at is what we would call the check. It is just Enlist 1 and Liberty at a pint each, mixed together with no additional surfactants or water conditioners. It does look pretty good. We got some tall water hemp here that maybe not be totally controlled. We've got the giant ragweed. You can see some skeletons out here that have been controlled. So overall, it looks pretty good. And actually, one thing in looking at this trial I've been impressed with is the combination of Enlist 1 and Liberty together. So when you think of Liberty on taller weeds like this, and these are off-label, again, we do this for adjuvant work so that we can challenge the differences between adjuvants by targeting taller weeds. So if you were on label, you'd have really good control out here. But how often does that happen in a real field situation? We know that some weeds get taller. And so when you think about Liberty by itself, a lot of times if the weeds are taller like this, you may see regrowth from those axillary buds and see that candelabra effect happening with Liberty because it kills, it's a coverage contact herbicide, and it kills that growing point, but it doesn't always get through the rest of the plant because it's not systemic. So I've been really impressed with Enlist 1 throughout all this trial, and the combination with Liberty, I think it brings a lot to the tank. And so we'll use this as a gauge as to how our adjuvant additions affect efficacy. So here we are in the next treatment. This is Enlist 1 and Liberty tank mixed together with a 3.5 pints per acre of liquid AMS, which gives you 1.5 pounds of AMS per acre. This is a little bit lower rate of AMS, but I think you can see maybe a little bit better control with the combination of Liberty and Enlist 1. And it's Liberty that really requires that addition of AMS to the tank. So we're seeing a little bit better control with that low rate of AMS. So the next treatment we're looking at is Liberty plus Enlist 1 with a little bit higher rate of AMS. So this is 7 pints per acre, which gives you 3 pounds per acre of AMS. Sometimes regional differences, different regional recommendations require a little bit higher rate of AMS. So we're looking at both the lower rate and the higher rate in this trial. The giant ragweed is pretty well gone, I think. Again, this is 13 days after application. The water hemp is looking pretty dead as well, and the Sida as well. So pretty good control out here. Our next treatment that we're looking at is Liberty plus Enlist 1 plus Jackhammer at 3 quarts per 100. It's an alternative form of water conditioner versus your liquid AMS. What we're seeing out here is still pretty good control. We've got some pretty large weeds still. You've got a little bit of variability in the plot, but that's replication, and that's why you replicate and why you do research. But I see some pretty good control overall in this plot and across the trial with the addition of Jackhammer. The next treatment we're looking at is Enlist 1 plus Liberty plus Last Chance. And Last Chance rate is 2 quarts to 100 here. As you can see, it's got some pretty good weed control. If you recall, Last Chance is our toluamine-based adjuvant, and it also has a water conditioner and deposition aid in it. It's really targeted for those Liberty acres and those taller, tough to control weeds to allow the herbicide to get past that cuticle and have better control. In this treatment, we're looking at the tank mix again of Enlist 1 and Liberty and Last Chance. In this case, we're adding in AMS. We're adding in 3.5 pints of liquid AMS, which gives you that 1.5 pounds of AMS per acre. As you know, our lead recommendation is to keep that AMS in with the Liberty and the Last Chance tank mixes. And I think you can see here a little bit different weed spectrum, but still, I think better weed control and more consistent weed control when you add that AMS in with that Last Chance tank mix. The last plot that we're going to look at today in this trial is Liberty plus Enlist 1 plus our lead recommendation, which is Veracity Elite. As you know, Veracity Elite is our all-in-one product that has the water conditioner, drift reduction aid, deposition aid, and the adjuvant, all in one. So it's done a really good job of performing here, and it's a bar that's set high and going to be hard to beat with some of the experimentals. Before we leave today, I'd like to take the opportunity to talk about crop response with the Enlist system. We asked the researcher to plant 4 rows of soybeans in the back of all of these treatments so that we could gauge crop response. And what we saw pretty uniformly across, whether or not it had an adjuvant or AMS, but the Enlist 1 system, the 2,4-D choline causes just a little bit of speckling injury on those contact areas on those leaves. I'm going to show you a little bit about what that looks like. It's pretty uniform on those older leaves that were there whenever they were applied. And the thought process behind those speckling is, really good growing soybeans. You're putting a larger droplet on there due to the restrictions on the label. That larger droplet is held in form longer than normal on a leaf, and then it also has oils on it. So the thought process is that you're going to see a little bit of speckling caused by those droplets staying on those leaves longer. It doesn't impact yield. It's cosmetic only, and it's something that we've seen, like I say, across the board without too much reaction or too much impact with the adjuvants that are in the tank. So that concludes our tour today of this tank mix trial with Enlist 1 and Liberty and the different water conditioners and surfactants. We have several experimental ones out here as well, but as you can see, the bar is set pretty high by our current products that we have in our portfolio. The researchers will continue to rate this through the end of the trial and look for those little bit of differences between those treatments. But I think the bar's set pretty high. Thanks for your attention today.